So let's talk about the spectrum of competition, which is the different market scenarios that we can have in a particular industry. It goes from perfect competition to monopoly. There's the spectrum over here. Although perfect competition, we know that's a bit rare to find in the real world, and also perfect monopolies are a bit rare to find in the real world, meaning that the majority of firms will actually lie somewhere in the middle of these two. Now, it's important to study perfect competition and monopolies because some firms and some industries will be similar, almost perfect competitive. So assuming perfect competition will help us to study those kind of situations. So the biggest difference between perfect competition and monopolistic competition is the products. The product will be differentiated in monopolistic competition, meaning that we'll have a lot of different products. Each one of them will be different. Companies will have incentive to differentiate their product, will have incentive to innovate, although they will be producing at higher average costs. In perfect competition, they will be producing at the minimum cost possible, but all the products will be the same. There is no variety, and there is not so much incentive for innovation and product differentiation. An oligopoly or monopoly result from when there are barriers of entry in a particular market, meaning that there will be positive economic profits. And the reason for that is that these barriers will prevent new firms, new competitors from joining this particular market, meaning that these economic profits will not be diluted among new firms, new participants in the market. Now this is a bit of, it has two faces, monopolies and oligopolies. On one side, it might be the result of innovation, patents. It might be also the result of economies of scale, as we saw previously. So it might be the most efficient market scenario if they are producing at the the minimum of their average cost curve. On the other side, once you get into a monopoly and once you have a market power over a particular product, you might want to increase prices, reduce output, reduce the quality of the service that you provide, and you can relax a bit because you don't have a big threat of competition and the new companies coming into the market. There is a bit of a debate in the last few decades about how will technology and globalization impact this long-run average cost curve. Some people will say that this will make it easier for small firms to reach more distant customers, which will be true, either inside a big country or even globally to reach customers on the other side of the world. On the other side, new technology might make winner-take-all markets in which one large company will be able to expand and become bigger and bigger. So it's still we're left to see what will be the long-term consequences of technology and globalization on the long-run average cost curve, which we saw that it can impact the number of participants in a particular market, the size of those participants, and also the spectrum of competition in that particular market. That's why it's important to study this. Now, as we saw, in the case of oligopolies and monopolies, there might be long-term positive economic profits. And the reason for that is that there are barriers to entry in this particular market, which prevent new competitors, new firms from entering a profitable market. And I provide some examples here of what kind of barriers to entry there might be. And some of them are legal restrictions created by the government. Some of them are about controlling physical resource, a particular technology. Can also be the most efficient market scenario, as we saw in the case of natural monopolies and natural oligopolies. But it can also result from predatory pricing or any other management strategy that the company wants to promote in order to discourage competition. Now, what are the differences between a perfectly competitive firm and a monopoly? Well, they both try to maximize their profits, and they will do that if their marginal revenue equals marginal costs. But the difference is that in a perfectly competitive firm, the marginal revenue will be equal to price, meaning that the firm will be a price taker. The firm will not have impact on the price of the product, will not have market power. But in a monopoly, the case is very different because the company will be a price maker. Actually, a monopoly will have impact in the market, will have impact in the price. So in order to maximize profit, a monopoly also needs to take in consideration that an increase in the price will, on one hand, increase revenues because the price of the product that the company is selling is more expensive. On the other side, it will decrease demand and quantity that will be bought by consumers. So we have two opposite effects here.